Students, I am Mrs. Manju Sharma, your S.Sc teacher, and today we will start our third chapter of History, Class 8th, Ruling the Countryside. Students, in the previous chapter, we have studied that the British started acquiring land and the rights to administer them from the kings and rulers. We have also studied that they started to enact their own rules and laws to control the people who lived in those territories. They adopted so many policies like subsidiary alliance, doctrine of lapse, and annexation of different types of different kingdoms. In this chapter, we will learn about the agrarian policy the Britishers adopted in the rural areas to extract the maximum profit from the farmers and what was the impact on the Indian society. We shall learn all of this. As we know that in the Indian history, early years of settlements and kingdoms, the kings had to maintain armies as well as the administrators. For this purpose, there was a system. The people contribute the king in kind of food, grains, agricultural products, or in cash. And the citizens give all the things to king's territory for their own wish. But after the Britishers came here, they started new revenue policy which they introduced in India. The land revenue policy of the British, the East India Company of British set foot on Indian shores in the early as 18th century, and slowly the influence of the British started spreading in various parts of India. In those days, India was essentially an agrarian society. Most of the people were farmer here. The British found it difficult to sustain its business interest in India as they had to trade with gold or silver brought from Britain to purchase goods like spice, cotton, and silk textiles. So, the company started administrating the land and devised system to increase their revenue resources by introducing new procedures and policies. The first revenue system was the permanent settlement. The system of permanent settlement was introduced by Lord Cornwallis in 1793, and the main features were the jamidars was required to pay a fixed amount of revenue of the company every year. The amount was fixed. The jamidar could collect revenue as per his own estimates and could retain the surplus collection from peasants as his own profit. The jamidar system was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. The thought behind the system was that the need for profit would make the jamidar take interest in the development of the land and increase agricultural product. The company retained the right to confiscate the land in the case of jamidar failed to pay the fixed revenue. And this clause helped them acquire land as there were many defaulters due to natural calamities affecting the agriculture output. So, the advantage of the permanent system for the company was a lot. It created a loyal class of jamidars. The company was assured a fixed amount of revenue from the land, and the company was not required to waste much time or human resource for the collection of revenue. And the effect on the peasants of these systems were very worse. The system overlooked the interest of the cultivators. The jamidar used all sorts of oppressive methods. Jamidars, in several cases, left the cultivators at the mercy of the middleman. The land revenue demanded by the jamidars was very high. Therefore, the cultivators were forced to borrow the moneylenders. The jamidars did not take any interest in the improving the land, but interest were keen to confiscate the land by creating situation. With time, the company realized that the fixed revenue demand did not work in their favor, so they introduced other system in India. The next, Ryotwari system. There was no uniform land revenue policy in the whole of India. The Ryotwari system was introduced in Bombay and Madras presidencies. It was started by Captain Alexander Reed and later on developed by Sir Thomas Munro. Under this system, cultivators were recognized as the landowners, and land revenue was directly taken from them by the officials appointed by the company. And the merits of this system, peasants became the owner of the land and were free from the exploitation by the jamidar. And the company gained financially as it could increase the land revenue. But there were so many disadvantages also. In most cases, the land revenue was exorbitant. It was high as 50% of the produce of land. The next system was the Mehalwari system. This system was introduced by Holt Mackenzie in 1822 in the northwest province, part of Punjab and parts of central India. Under this system, the right to collect the revenue and paying it to the company was given to the village headman rather than the jamidar. Even under this system, the revenue rates were very high and the condition of peasants remained miserable. Now, we will know that what was the impact of revenue policies on the farmers. In general, it can be stated that all these policies were followed to extract maximum revenue and send a part of it to England, and there is no profit for farmers. How the Britishers pressurized the farmer to grow cash crops. Cash crops are grown with the purpose of selling it in the market to get money. The British forced the peasants to grow indigo, opium, jute, tea, rubber, sugarcane. These crops were grown with the purpose selling in Europe for a huge profit. And in this crops, the indigo was very important crops. Demand for indigo were increased day by day. Indigo has been an important source of blue dye for thousands of years. One of the most color-fast natural dyes, compatible with all fibers like wool, cotton, silk and linen. Unlike other plant dyes, indigo dyeing process is simple and needs lesser effort. India had been producing indigo for many centuries. There is evidence of its use even in the Indian Valley civilization. The cultivation of indigo on a large scale started in the 16th century in India, and this was documented by European visitors in the 16th and 17th century. The British established commercial cultivations and production of indigo in India. Initially, plantation began in 1777, and by 1788, most of the production of indigo purchased by the East India Company originated from Bengal. Now we will learn the system of indigo cultivation. There were two systems of cultivating indigo during the British Raj. These were namely the Nij and the Rioti system. The Nij system. Nij was a system of indigo cultivation wherein the planters produced indigo on lands and they directly controlled. They either owned the land or took it on hire to cultivate indigo with hired peasants. And there were so many problems with niche system. The problem with niche cultivation can be grouped under three heads like the land, the labor and the farming. First, the land related problem. Indigo cultivation required highly fertile land and to make them commercially viable. It was important to cultivate on compact and larger landholding. This led to attempt to take over land of other farmers by force and become the cause of conflict and tensions. Second is labor related problem. A vast plantation required a large number of hands to help in the field. In those days, most of the work was manual and no major technology was available in farming activities. So there is the problem of labor was also. Next, farming aid. Indigo cultivation on vast stretches of land required many plows and bullocks. The requirement was nearly double the requirement as compared to rice field at the same size, so the farming aids were very less. The next system is Rioti system. Rioti was other system of indigo cultivation. Under the Rioti system, the planters forced the riots to sign an agreement or a contract. Those who signed the contract got cash advance from the planters at low rates of interest to produce indigo, but the loan terms insisted that the riot cultivate indigo on at least 25% of the area under his holding. Now there were problems also in the realty system. The problem with the system was that while the loan was provided, it could never be paid back by the peasants, and they got into a vicious cycle of loans and debts. The indigo plant was negatively affecting the quality of the soil. It had deep roots and took away the soil nutrients, making it unfit for any cultivation subsequently. So the farmers were not ready to grow indigo for Britishers. When the situation became worse, the Blue Rebellion or Indigo Revolt was occurred. The series of such methods of exploiting the poor farmers and peasants made them understand that the planters had slowly eaten into their system and many farmers had got into debt trap. The farmers stopped paying rents to the planters. The revolt by the indigo farmers against the planters got into name from the blue color of the indigo plant. In March 1859, the revolt became more organized. Thousands of ryots in Bengal refused to grow indigo, and this rebellion is called Blue Rebellion. So many other revolts also occurred in India. The revolt started from district of Nadia, where Digambar Bishwas and Vishnu Charan Bishwas first took up arms against the planters. The revolt was ruthlessly suppressed, and the consequences of the revolt were historians like Jogesh Chandra Bengal and R.C. Majumdar describes the revolt as a non-violent revolution and a passive resistance which they say was later successfully adopted by Mahatma Gandhi. The planters then shifted their indigo cultivation to Bihar. However, their business was seriously affected by the introduction of synthetic dyes in Europe. A movement led by Mahatma Gandhi from Champaran in 1917 once again brought the rights of the farmers into limelight and helped them out of the problems caused by indigo plantations. So, students, in this chapter we have learned about the various system of revenue system of Britishers which imposed on Indian farmers, and all the revenue system was oppressive and exploitative. After after much time, when the farmers realized that it is the policy which slowly eaten into their system, and farmers became debt trapped, they do rebellion against Britishers, and they won in many ways. After that, the revolt and revolutions became fast, and so many Indian leaders supported the Indian farmers and became successfully. Okay, students, the chapter is over.